welcome to episode 2 of CrypticCast, the podcast where we dive deep into the realm of unexplained phenomenon, paranormal activity, and our listeners' own personal experiences. My name is Greg, and I'll be your host. Today, we'll be sharing one of our listeners' experiences and then following up with some of more experiences from yours truly. We'll start things off with our listener story first. Remember, the names in these stories have been changed for our listeners' privacy. Tina writes, in 1972, Mike, the love of my life, drowned in a pond at an undisclosed location. Next morning, I woke up and he was standing by my bed. It scared me, so I covered my eyes, and he spoke to me, telling me that he was all right, not to worry about him, and to tell his mother that he was okay. A few days later, I was telling a friend about the experience, and she told me about her own experience while she was looking up toward Mike's house. She saw a large hand reaching down from the sky, hovering over his home. Several days after his funeral, I was talking to some friends of ours, and they told me that there was a man looking for me at Mike's burial. The man wanted to know where I was, and they told him I was talking to Mike's sisters. When I asked my friends who the man was, they said they weren't sure, but he looked like Mike. I guess he was checking on me. I believe that if a love is so strong enough, a person can come back. Oh, and when Mike appeared by my bedside, he had on the same suit that they had buried him in. After all these years, I have never stopped loving him. Tina, thank you for sharing your story. Love doesn't always die when someone passes away. Oftentimes, love can overcome any obstacle and defy all that we think we understand. So, Tina's experience made me think of a similar story from back in junior high school days when there was a young boy that we knew whose father had unexpectedly passed away. The same boy had told us that his father visited him, sat on his bed, and had a long talk with him about the days to come, the future, and so on. And he told him not to worry about him and that he was okay as well. It's been years since I thought about the story, and reading some of the submissions we've received has brought back a ton of memories. And that basically all of them, or a lot of them, not all paranormal stories, are scary ones. And if nothing else, that's one thing I believe that we'll discover together along our journey, is there is positive and negative aspects to all things in life and death. You just have to be open enough to experience these things and strong enough to block the negative that may come with it. Previously, in our first episode, I spoke about my dad to some length, and it's strange how he kind of interacts with us here sometimes. My wife actually first picked up on his activity around here. She was in the kitchen preparing a meal, and thought she had heard me ask a question. Then she called my name or responded to what she thought she had heard, sounding very startled. I was in the living room adjacent to the kitchen where she was at, and I walked out and asked her what she said, and she just had this completely stunned look on her face and said, "Were you just standing there?" And I'm like, "No, it wasn't me. I just walked in here when I heard you talking to me." My wife then said, "Oh my God, it was your dad. He was just here. He was standing right there, and then he just vanished. I saw him just as plain as I see you standing there right now." And I have to admit that her sighting freaked me out a bit at first, but I know my dad would never harm her or anyone else. So I have seen him, but he doesn't appear to me in full form like he does my wife. He appears kind of like a mist. He moves rather quickly. Always seems to catch my eye. Then almost corresponding immediately after seeing him, we will smell cigarette smoke. My father smoked cigarettes for over 40 years, and he admitted to me just before he died he had never stopped craving them, even though he had quit almost 10 years before he passed. Just another confirmation to me that it is him and not some spirit, or entity pretending to be him. Basically, when he was in the hospital a few days before he died, he told me if he ever made it out of the hospital, he wanted to smoke a cigarette this big. And he basically stretched his arms out wide as he could, and he said, and drink a big bottle of whiskey. So yes, my dad was quite the character, and still is whenever he pays us a visit here. So just another, personal thing about my dad that some of you may find funny. So just a few stories from myself and one from one of our listeners. If you have an experience you'd like to share or for us to read here on a future episode, you can email me at CrypticCastOfficial@gmail.com, and I will share it in a future episode. Ghost, UFO, Bigfoot, missing people, cryptid encounters, or any unexplained phenomenon experiences will all be shared. For those who might be interested, we also have a couple of short videos over on YouTube. We just started that channel a couple of weeks ago. So if you'd like to check them out, one video is me describing a UFO encounter that I've had, and the other is basically a video of us visiting several local Civil War era graveyards in the area here. The channel name is CrypticCast Official, and there's a link on our Anchor homepage if you'd like to check it out. So we're going to wrap this episode up. I'd like to thank everybody so much for listening, and remember to stay open, stay safe, and keep looking beyond the obvious.